I'd spend some time to discuss a common problem that internal IT support organizations face, and it's whether they're big or whether they're small. And namely, it's really around how to deliver increasingly consumer-like, digital support experiences while facing year-on-year budget pressure. And I'm sure all of us have faced budget pressures, and many times, in particular, because we see IT as a cost center in many cases, you get struck with sometimes a step change in expected cost reductions. So I'm going to introduce some things that maybe some of the folks on this call know, the non-technologists, some marketing tools and so forth that we in the technology areas, an engineer like myself or software developer, sometimes we don't really talk about marketing principles and tools and really using those things to better understand our employee base, our customer base, and understand those drivers to help us improve our services. And in some cases, understand how we can influence those customers, those employees, to lower cost options, and while continuing to drive improved experience. So that's what this is all about. Yeah. So just a couple simple truths here. I think these are pretty self-evident, but look, successful companies, they make what they can sell versus sell what they can make. And a lot of times in IT, we've been accused of, just developing things and saying, hey, you should use this. And people say, well, wait a minute, this isn't even useful. So it's something that increasingly IT organizations find themselves in as they, understand the true sense of their customers, the employees of the company they serve. And to an extent, customers can be influenced to try alternatives. But the key there is there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason to believe. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Mentioned it before, employees are customers of the IT organization. You're going to hear me probably bounce back and forth between employee and customer. Please don't get confused. Normally, when I'm talking about customer in this context, I'm talking about the employees of an organization. And I think it was Rebecca that had a slide around employee experience and how it directly relates dead on to the customer experience and to the company's profitability. So with those sort of simple truths in order, what I wanted to do was introduce a case study. And just for some context, a Fortune 100 company, about 300,000 global employees, consuming typical IT services. So everything from desktop or laptop or a virtual desktop to bring your own device to collaboration, the types of tools that we're using here, even business applications and some office productivity stuff. So what you normally refer to in the industry as end user technologies. And in this particular example, from an initial state perspective, like many companies and like external, people want omni-channel support, right? So if they have an issue. And so in this particular company is a service desk taking about 52% of the contacts, live chat 25%, self-help chatbot about 18%, and then a tech bar at a lower percentage at 5%. And so that's pretty common. The percentages can, depending on company or industry, could vary, but that was the initial state. And so the challenge was, how do we continue to drive high quality support services that meet individual needs? And we're not all the same, and we think different things turn different people on in terms of how they like their support and what they expect. But how do we do that and continue to drive cost out of the system and to remain competitive? And so that's what we're going to spend a little time talking about. I'm going to share some specific numbers with you just to give you a sense of the kinds of savings and change in CSAT and Net Promoter Scores. But before I do that, I had a little fun with the names here. There's really four different, in exploring this further, there was really four different segments when we talk about the use or the primary avenue to gain support. And the first is the traditionalist, the person that picks up the phone, calls into the service desk. Obviously, all these folks want good technical capability, but traditionalists typically want a little bit more of the softer skills. I might be trying to get an Excel spreadsheet out, and it's really important to the corporation, and I'm all uptight and so forth. And I like to have, in that case, maybe somebody that's going to calm me down, says, "I've got you. I'm going to get you through this." I mean, that kind of effect is very, very helpful in certain situations. And I'm willing, in most cases, to wait in a queue if I know that I've got a good service that I'm going to get. Apple's a very good example of this. A lot of times their wait times on calls or even live chat are 20, 25 minutes, but people hang on and they know they're going to get service. The multitasker, on the other hand, wants to try to do some things at the same time if they can. They're not as worried about the customer care attributes. They're really looking for being able to do two or three things at the same time and get their question answered. Do it yourselfer. Again, people that like to search through knowledge articles, use a chatbot assist. But what we found as well, those people like to have some more information while they're doing that around what their services look like. So what have I subscribed to? What's the current status of my services? What were my last 3 tickets? Do I have something open? When do I expect a call back on something? Those types of things. And then you got again, having some fun with the names here, a get up and goer. And that's the individual that says, "Oh, I've got a problem. I'm going to set an appointment to go somewhere in the building to a tech bar and sit down with them. They're going to fix my problem. And they're probably going to say, 'Hey, did you think about this? You could do this, you could do that. And by the way, we're having a seminar tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You should come by because we think it could be helpful to you.'" So that kind of personalization is really, really helpful. Taking it a step further then, from the service attribute perspective, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised on this video here, is there's certain things that are table stakes. These are attributes that are consistent no matter what avenue you choose. And that's, look, we want easy access. We expect strong technical help. We want a quality resolution on the first try. If that's not possible to get it resolved on the first try, then we really have a high expectation that you'll set follow-up with us. Whereas there's some variable attributes depending on what your primary mode of operation is, and that is around what engagement channel. Do I care about soft skills or not? The overall speed of resolution versus maybe getting some personalization, the willingness to wait for service, and again, the personalization. We know you, we know your work group, we may be able to offer you things. Those types of things are really important. I mentioned soft skills, and to me, those are things like confident, caring, being calming, those types of things. I sort of call it authenticity as well. So moving along here, the next step in the process was really around focusing in on those secondary differentiation drivers, right? So we had the segments established, and we used, in this particular instance, conjoint analysis was used. For those that aren't familiar with it, it's a survey-based statistical technique that folks in the market research area use to help understand the relative value of different attributes against a particular market segment. And again, it's not something you normally see in the IT space, but increasingly, as we think of users as employees as true customers, it becomes really, really helpful. It was designed, I think, by Wharton some time ago. And although it sounds like it might be an intimidating process, it really isn't. And there's a lot of information about it if you're so inclined and not familiar with it. You could Google it, and there's even tools that help you go through it. But it's really asking a series of questions to ascertain what a user's preference is by presenting them multiple choices at the same time and trying to get a relative ranking. And so when you do when the ranking was done here against these 4 major segments, and you could have 5 drivers or 3 drivers or 6 drivers, and the process would be similar. What you start to see then is you can start to see a pattern where, and I'm going to move to the next slide, or just put some arrows, where you start to see what are those specific differences, drivers that we might have to use, or we will have to use, to make the live chat and or the chatbot self-help more attractive to people that their first preference is service desk. And where are we really going with this? Well, we're going with this because of money. We know that live chat and chatbot, as examples, are less costly, and they can, with the right solution in place, provide high levels of satisfaction and loyalty and so forth. And so that's the key takeaway from the analysis is, again, what do we need? Not so much what do we need to do, but we need to focus on bringing those soft skills, bringing that personalization into those lower cost channels so that we can hopefully attract, get the service desk preferred avenue folk into that other bucket, and then hold them there because they've had a great experience. And so some of the key actions around that were, again, focusing on personalization and the 4 C's. It was really around 5 or 6 different work streams. One was take the chatbot, take the live chat, and instead of just having sort of some basic information around the landing pages associated with getting into it, wrap it with something that's really personalized to the user, their services, their last cases open, the service status, suggestions based on what their work group might have. Application A used 80% of the work group. Offer that. Say, hey, by the way, your work group uses this. This might be helpful. Here's where you could find out more. Training suggestions, and then personalized tips and tricks. Again, that personalized experience through, just having a wrapper around both the live chat and around the chatbot. Of course, we try to move to the chatbot as much as possible because that is the lowest cost avenue. Training, giving those live chat agents just a little bit more training. Say, look, bring a little bit more emotion into those chats, the things I talked about before, where maybe, again, some of you may have done journey mapping and so forth, and you look at really what are the emotions that are happening as people go through your service and do the different touch points, and how does a good person react to those and have empathy and all those types of things. And then a balanced set of personality traits, not going over the top with the chat, but so some basic greetings, some reassurance. Emojis are helpful. The natural language processing, that's really helpful. Mobile app, that's always a good thing. Again, continuing to prove that ease of access. I normally press a button and I get the service desk on my phone. So, with an app, you just click and you're into either the chatbot or the live chat. Always continue to drive the chatbot resolve rate. It's important to note here that in this particular instance, which I think is a good instance no matter what, is when the chatbot is not successful, it does ask the user, would you like to continue in a live chat format with a live person? 95% of the people do so. And it's a good way to continue to have that what you call first contact resolution high. And then an awareness campaign. I talked about reason to believe. But create some video clips with colleagues saying, hey, you know what, I tried the chatbot, that's my go-to. Those types of things, give them an opportunity to believe that this could be helpful to them, and also just know that it's out there. Sometimes they don't even know it's out there. Targeted emails, appealing to sort of a sensitivity around helping the company be fiscally responsible. That was an important. Live reminders, during service chat or live chat sessions about what's happening, pushing the app to people, and a limited number of desktop pop-up reminders. People can get annoyed with that, so need to be careful with that. And then regular IT awareness events that maybe you've had at your respective companies, on site or virtual. So now I pop up all these, as a true IT guy, I pop up all these numbers for you to try to consume. But really, what this results shows is it's comparing 2019 to 2020, and I'll point out a couple of things for you. In 2019, and you might remember this from the initial, one of the initial slides, the share of user contacts from service desks were 52%, and then live chat 25, and so on and so forth. You might remember those from the first slide. There's a cost per there's a volume. There's a volume in that case was 1.3 million contacts per year. There's a relative volume associated with service desk, live chat, and that's where the 52, 25%, et cetera, come into play. And then there's a cost per contact, and you can see service desk is significant, has a significant volume and a significant cost. Some of you might say, "Ooh, chatbot looks kind of high." I mean, if it's a chatbot, maybe there's some software involved, maintenance, maybe curating of information, that type of thing. But boy, $3, that sounds kind of high. But really, when you look at what this particular avenue is, it's chatbot with the live chat assist. So where the chatbot is 60 to 70% helpful, the 30 to 40% where it can't solve and people go to a live chat, that obviously inflates the overall cost of that channel. And so on a price tag of about $13 million, that's what 2019 looked like. After instituting those things I've talked about, in 2020, you see a marked decrease in service desk and a holding at that, I would add, in terms of keeping people off the service desk and into these other avenues. And you're seeing what really happened where some people moved to live chat, some live chat moved to chatbot, some people from service desk moved all the way across in one go. And what happened was remarkable. There was a better than $3 million annual reduction in cost. 300,000 of it was through routine reduction in contacts through just good old continuous improvement and trying to improve the services, albeit a little bit less than we would normally see, but people were shipped home at COVID. But the thing I think you really need to leave you with is that it's not just the cost reduction exercise. Yes, that was critical. Yes, that was on people's performance objectives and such, but it's an and the and is that the CSAT, which was at 89% overall, moved to 91. It's a reasonably good CSAT to begin with for this sort of area. The net promoter score, the loyalty were in the 40% range and moved up to 43%, statistically significant. And the first call resolution moved from 88 to 89%. Again, another way in which customers measure, employees measure their the usefulness of your service. So that was a good quick canter through that specific example. And I'd submit to you that for those that are in the IT space here, that those marketing tools and principles that are used don't necessarily have to be used only in the support space. They could be used in the actual products that are offered to the users themselves. And similar code join analysis can be done to pinpoint more like a real, the company does, pinpoint what are the right characteristics, features, and functionalities of that specific product or service that would be helpful. So again, improvements were made, cost was taken out. I guess you could say we had the cake and eat it too in this particular case, and it stayed pretty steady since then. And so that concludes the presentation. Thank you again for taking the time to listen in. And if you've got questions that arise afterwards, I've got some contact information, and I'm happy if there are any questions for me today. So thank you. Back to you, Richard.